What's going on, guys? Welcome back to WWE Network and show where I, Graham G.S. and Matthews, break down all the original content I watch on the WWE Network and on Peacock. And today we're talking the June 26, 2023 edition of Raw Talk. We had some news break this morning, actually, pertaining to Raw Talk and WWE's other programming. Thought I would mention it here because, like I said, it's relevant to Raw Talk and SmackDown Lowdown. We had a bit of an announcer shakeup this morning, per WWE, officially announced via Variety. So Megan Morant will be the new host of Raw Talk alongside Matt Camp starting, I think, next week. Megan tweeted about it, said that SmackDown this coming Friday will be her final Friday as the backstage interviewer for that show. She's been the backstage interviewer for SmackDown, I think, since right after WrestleMania in 2021. So she's been in the Blue brand for a while. She's coming on over to Raw Talk and SmackDown Lowdown, I believe, to host alongside Matt Camp. I don't know the reason for this shakeup. I don't know if this is important enough for like the wrestling news websites to find out why the change is being made. Maybe it's just random. I don't know. I know Jackie, like we've talked about here on the show before, she came back a couple days ago, last week, whatever it was. I don't think, was she on the show last week? Looking at my notes here. She was on Raw Talk last week, as well as SmackDown Lowdown. She wasn't around for like a good month or so because she has other obligations with other networks doing like sports stuff and whatever. So, it's not that. I mean, she's going to be on Raw every week now. That was the other big change. So she's going to Raw as a backstage interviewer alongside Byron Saxton. Now that leads people to question, what the fuck happened to Kathy Kelly? And I was a little worried too when I saw the headline. But Kathy, thankfully, is only going to SmackDown. I know she's really good friends with Samantha Irvin, and she's staying on Raw, so they will no longer be together. That was very short-lived. But Kathy's going to SmackDown alongside Kayla, who is still in the backstage role as well. So Kayla's replacing Megan. We're having Jackie replacing Kathy. And then we have Megan replacing Jackie here on Raw Talk and SmackDown Lowdown. Did you get all that? So that's starting, I think, next week. I would assume, they didn't mention this on Raw Talk last night. WWE put out the news this morning. So I would assume these changes go into effect after the pay-per-view on Saturday. Actually, I don't even think there is a SmackDown Lowdown this weekend. I forgot about that, but because Money in the Bank is at 3 p.m., there is no SmackDown Lowdown. I would imagine there typically isn't on the weekend of pay-per-views where they air at like 1, 2, 3 in the afternoon Eastern time due to the time change and whatnot. There's just no reason for it. So I think on Raw Talk next week, we are going to have Megan Morant joining Matt Camp. Now, they kind of gave her a bit of a trial run. She was on Raw Talk or SmackDown Lowdown. Well, probably not SmackDown Lowdown because she was working SmackDown at one point, obviously, for the last 2 years. She was here on Raw Talk at least once or twice alongside Matt Camp in recent weeks. She did a fine job. Honestly, I feel like this is a lateral move. I mean, Raw Talk isn't really a priority for them, neither is SmackDown Lowdown, so it really doesn't matter. I think Jackie does already have hosting experience, not hosting experience, but, hosting experience, obviously, but interviewing experience from other stuff that she's done, like I said. So I don't think she'll be a complete stranger to the backstage interviewing on Raw going forward. Megan has mentioned, I think she either tweeted that she has studio experience or wanted studio experience. I forgot which. I think that she has studio experience. She's a fine interviewer. From what I've seen from her here on Raw Talk, it's not like that she's an exceptional upgrade over Jackie. Jackie's solid. I mean, she and Matt have built up a decent chemistry in the last year or two. So the change is a bit, it's not a bad move. It's not a great move. It's just kind of a move. So something to keep in mind going forward. Now we get to the actual episode here. They open it up with the Rollins-Balor segment from Raw last night, recapping that with Balor attempting to attack Rollins thwarting it, leading to Balor versus Carmelo Hayes, the NXT champion, in non-title action a little bit later on in the show. Really good match as expected. Hayes loses. Not exactly ideal, but it is what it is. Balor wins. They hype up the Rollins and Balor World Heavyweight Championship match back in the studio for Money in the Bank coming up this weekend. Matt Camp says that Balor needed his buttons pushed by Rollins, and this is the right Balor that we needed with the right intensity going into the pay-per-view this weekend. They also recap the Ricochet versus Shinsuke Nakamura match. Really fun stuff. Ricochet winning clean, which was a nice pleasant surprise. Still not a threat to win the men's Money in the Bank ladder match on Saturday, but a nice win for him nonetheless. We hear from Ricochet backstage with, I think Byron did all the interviews on the show this week. No Kathy Kelly from what I can remember. Ricochet says that it felt good to attack Bronson Reed because both he and Nakamura teamed up at one point during the match to lay out Bronson Reed. And he says that his thoughts on winning and his ability to win Money in the Bank have not changed. He feels like he can capitalize on opportunity and become Mr. Money in the Bank on Saturday. In the studio, they hype up the men's Money in the Bank ladder match involving Ricochet, Nakamura, Logan Paul, Damian Priest, Butch, Santos Escobar, and L.A. Knight, who my money's still on to hopefully win the whole thing. I'm thinking Logan Paul's probably going to win. I'm hoping he's a red herring, but I don't want to get my hopes up too high for L.A. Knight, even though he really, really, really should win. Matt Camp calls Butch a dark horse. He's picked a couple different people here on the show, but Butch will be in his native England for this show. I don't think he's winning. If he won and went back to being Pete Dunne, I wouldn't complain, but I don't feel like they see him on that level quite yet, just not right now. There's other people that make more sense than him right now. They replay the Miz attack on Tommaso Ciampa from Raw, so that feud is continuing, which I just don't fucking care. So Miz cut a promo here on Byron, and this wasn't Talking Smack 2016 type Miz, but it was probably the most serious I've seen Miz in quite a long time. Miz has been doing the goofy comedy shit, and I love Miz. Anyone who knows me well enough knows I'm a massive Miz fan. The shit that they've had him doing for the last year has been fucking terrible. He's on the show almost weekly, but he is the biggest afterthought in this program. The guy has not won a televised match since December. I know he's established, I know he's credible, he's a former WWE champion, 2-time actually, among many other accolades that he's acquired in this company. The problem is that beating The Miz at this point means absolutely fucking nothing. Ciampa did the right thing last week. Ciampa comes out, he beats the shit out of Miz. I guess maybe they were going to do the Ciampa Miz feud anyway, even if Ciampa did answer the open challenge from Rollins and he lost, the Miz came out and attacked him. I guess that was probably the direction they were going in regardless. But I thought what they did last week was perfect. He comes out, beats the shit out of Miz, and then you move on. No one gains anything from feuding with The Miz at this point. I enjoyed the Logan Paul Miz match at SummerSlam last year, but even that, some of the comedy shit going into that show is fucking awful. Like the My Tiny Balls shit that they're still fucking doing. Miz comes out, he attempts to be taken seriously on the show. He still comes out wearing the My Balls Are Massive shirt. I mean, come on. It's just hard to care. It is hard to care. So I'll recap this quickly, but Miz goes off on Ciampa to Byron. He says that he doesn't call anyone. Ciampa's crying, oh, boo-hoo, I didn't call you. I call no one. People call me. I'm the superstar. Put respect on my name. I'm tired of the lack of respect I get. And he calls Ciampa an immense talent, but look at everything Miz has accomplished and everything Ciampa's accomplished does not happen in WWE, which isn't exactly true. I mean, Ciampa was pretty accomplished in NXT, but I guess he's not including NXT. And that was the end of the promo. So, again, I like the intensity here from Miz. I just feel like it's too little, too late. He's been such a fucking stepping stone loser on the show for so long. And the Miz himself, I don't want to get this twisted. The guy himself is great. I think Miz is awesome, no pun intended. The problem is how they've used him and booked him. Now, I know they use him to elevate other people at this point in his career, and that's great. But you got to give the guy some shine of his own, and an attack on Ciampa is not enough. The guy's been made to look like an absolute fucking dweeb for 6 straight months. And even prior to that, the Dexter Lumis feud accomplished nothing. In retrospect, that shit went on for fucking 4 or 5 months. And what did it accomplish? Nothing. Lumis isn't even on Raw anymore. He hasn't appeared on Raw in months. Didn't help him. Didn't help Johnny Gargano. He hasn't been on Raw in forever. What else has Miz done since then? Was he even at WrestleMania? He hosted WrestleMania. What, he faced fucking Snoop Dogg? I mean, come on. The shit they've done with Miz for the last 6 months has been terrible. At this point, he's literally just channel-changing material. And I feel bad saying that because I love the guy himself and his work, but just the way they've used him has been fucking awful. Anyway, back in the studio, they hype up, or rather replay, the Women's Summit from Raw, which was just kind of there, to hype up the the women's Money in the Bank ladder match, which they talk about more in the studio. Speaking of which, they run down the entire Money in the Bank card. We now have 7 matches official for that show. Since last week, they've added 2 more matches. Raquel and Liv getting their rematch for the WWE Women's Tag Team titles against Ronda Rousey and Raquel Rodriguez, which they replay. They recap the Ronda and Rodriguez match from Raw, which we'll get into in a second. They also recap the Gunther and Sami Zayn match, which set up the other match, the new match made official for Money in the Bank, that being Gunther versus Matt Riddle for the Intercontinental Championship coming up on Saturday. So I'm looking forward to that one. The full 7-match card they talk about and preview each match. So we hear very briefly from Raquel and Liv here on Raw Talk. There was a point where coming out of Mania, we heard from Liv and Raquel like every fucking week on every show, on Raw Talk and SmackDown Lowdown, to the point where it was like they weren't really even saying anything of note. And then we got a bit of a break when Liv got hurt. Now Liv's back, so they were on Raw Talk last night. And this was fine, though. This wasn't a waste. They showed great intensity. Raquel and Liv were both fed up with Ronda and Shayna, what they pulled on Raw. Ronda won by beating Raquel. Rodriguez started screaming in Spanish and said to Kathy that she's done with Ronda and Baszler. And then she walks off. Liv says what she said, and that was it. In the studio to close this thing out, they recap the Cody Rhodes and Damian Priest main event, won by Cody Rhodes. Good match. They hype Cody Rhodes versus Dominic Mysterio for Money in the Bank, and they talk about the match, and Matt Cam says, well, the crowd's going to be entertained regardless. They're going to fucking hate Dominic and love Cody Rhodes, and that's going to make for a great dynamic, and I agree. And they plug Trish Stratus and Zoe Stark for the bump coming up on Wednesday with special guest host alongside Matt Camp. No Caleb Braxton this week, I guess. Hosting the show alongside Matt Camp will be Sam Roberts for, again, anyone that watches that show. I've never seen a single bump show. I don't plan on it, but for those that do watch, there you go. That was Raw Talk in a nutshell for June 26, 2023. Decent stuff here. I like the Miz promo, like I said, though. It's just hard to fucking care. I mean, if this is the turning point that Miz needed to become a serious competitor again, then great. But they've been doing this shit for a decade plus now, where they attempt to push Miz as like a serious star, and it only lasts for a couple of weeks. And then he goes back to the dumb comedy crap, so I don't think it benefits Ciampa at all, personally. You might be asking, well, what do you do with him instead? Is Gargano not fucking cleared? Like, what's going on with Gargano? Why not just skip to the chase here and get to Gargano and Ciampa as a tag team? I assume that's where this is going, but, I mean, why waste any more time? I thought Johnny was cleared. He was working house shows, was he not? I don't know. Who knows? Anyway, thank you guys for checking out my review. I appreciate it. Be sure to like the video, drop a comment, share the video, and subscribe to the channel for more daily content. All the Raw Talk reviews in the playlist down below. Quick plug here of my own. #AskGSM episode 500 coming up tomorrow. We're going live on YouTube, I believe, for the first time in about 2 years, since episode 400 in the summer of 2021. We're going back live tomorrow. Sometime. I haven't even put up the stream yet because I have no fucking clue what time we're going live. I'll put out the link when we're live. I can't even schedule a video because the YouTube live stuff has changed so much from year to year. I started doing it in 2019, 2020, and it changes. It's changed since then. It's not difficult to do it, but I don't want to promise a certain time and I can't make it. I've got other stuff going on, so it will be sometime tomorrow, either early afternoon Eastern time or mid-afternoon right before Dynamite, in the evening time. Keep an eye out. That's coming up tomorrow. Episode 500 of #AskGSM. If you got some time, if you're around, if you want to send in a question beforehand, great. If you want to send in a question during the show and interact with myself, and probably Alexis will very likely be joining me, even better. Have a great one, guys. I'm Graham GSM Matthews, and I'll catch your ass down the road.